Imagine this. The year is 1415. Instead of European ships braving the Atlantic, it's vast fleets from the Americas, sleek wooden vessels from the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan, Inca expeditions sailing from the Pacific coast, and Mayan navigators harnessing centuries of astronomical knowledge. But these aren't trade missions. These are conquest fleets. Europe, fractured by endless wars and weakened by famine, watches in disbelief as armies from across the Atlantic land on its shores. For the first time in history, the New World has come to the Old. What happens when the Americas, not Europe, become the colonizers? How would religion, politics, and culture change if Aztec priests and Inca generals carved their empires into medieval Europe? Stay with me until the end, because this journey into alternate history doesn't just flip the script, it might just change how you see the entire course of human civilization. Let's set the stage. In real history, Europe colonized the Americas because it had three critical advantages: maritime technology, centralized states, and the spread of Old World diseases. But let's imagine a divergence point. What if Native American civilizations, rich in astronomy, engineering, and agriculture, developed ocean-going ships earlier than Europe? Perhaps the Mayans, with their advanced mathematics and calendar systems, achieved breakthroughs in navigation. Or maybe the Incas, with their sprawling road networks and organizational genius, redirect their energies toward naval exploration. Whatever the case, by the early 1400s, it's not Columbus heading west. It's Tenochtitlan and Cuzco sending fleets east. The first European contact isn't in the Caribbean, but along the coasts of Portugal and Spain. Picture it. Villages watching enormous ships appear on the horizon, painted in vibrant colors, drums pounding across the waves. Warriors in jaguar pelts and feathered headdresses disembark, armed with obsidian blades, slings, and spears tipped with copper. Europeans had never seen anything like this. But here's the catch. Europe in the early 1400s was weak. The Hundred Years' War between England and France was draining kingdoms dry. The Black Death had only recently ravaged the continent. Feudal lords squabbled while peasants toiled under crushing poverty. And so the question becomes, how does a divided Europe respond when powerful civilizations arrive from across the sea? This is where cause and effect takes over. American empires would exploit Europe's greatest weakness, disunity. Instead of one powerful, centralized kingdom standing against them, they'd find dozens of feudal states constantly at war with each other. Much like Spain later conquered the Aztecs by allying with local rivals, the Americas could have played Europeans against each other. Imagine the Aztecs supporting rebellious barons in France, or the Incas offering weapons to Scottish clans in exchange for loyalty. But disease flips direction too. In real history, smallpox devastated the Americas. Here, it's European plagues, already burned through the population, that barely dent the invaders. Instead, American diseases, previously unknown to Europeans, sweep across villages. Entire regions collapse under waves of unfamiliar illnesses. By the mid-1400s, strongholds of Iberia, France, and parts of Italy might already be under American control. Europe doesn't fall all at once, but the power balance begins to shift. And yet, conquest is only the beginning. What happens when the Americas bring not just armies, but culture, gods, and entire worldviews across the ocean? Religion was the backbone of Europe. Christianity touched every part of life, from kings to peasants. But what happens when American empires bring their own gods? The sun god Inti, Huitzilopochtli, the god of war, Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. At first, Europeans resist, but power has a way of reshaping belief. Conquered populations are forced to adopt new rituals. Temples rise over ruined cathedrals. In Spain, Catholic processions might blend with Aztec blood sacrifices. In France, villagers pray to both the Virgin Mary and Inti for good harvests. Over generations, syncretism forms, a hybrid faith mixing Christianity with American cosmology. And here's where it gets fascinating. Europe's intellectual and artistic flowering, the Renaissance, was just beginning in this period. But under American colonization, the Renaissance takes a different path. Instead of Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, we might see frescoes of Quetzalcoatl soaring across ceilings in Florence. If you're enjoying this dive into alternate history, make sure to like this video and subscribe. We're just scratching the surface of how this world could look, and what comes next will flip your expectations even further. Because religion is only the first thing to change. Once governments fall, politics and economics are next. Feudal Europe wasn't built to withstand centralized empires like the Aztecs or Incas. American rulers, used to commanding vast territories and organizing tribute systems, would have swept away medieval fragmentation. Imagine France or Spain reorganized into tribute provinces, paying crops, gold, and labor to Tenochtitlan instead of their local kings. Monarchies weaken. Feudal lords lose power. Peasants now owe allegiance to faraway rulers across the Atlantic. But here's the twist. Instead of Europe colonizing the Americas for silver and gold, the Americas colonize Europe for its fertile land, dense population, and skilled labor. Trade routes reverse. Instead of gold flowing west, European crafts, wines, and wool flow east across the Atlantic. The Americas become the world's dominant economic hub centuries ahead of schedule. The center of world civilization is not London, Paris, or Rome. It's Tenochtitlan, Cuzco, and Cahokia. But politics and economics aren't everything. War always finds a way, and the question is, how does this flipped balance of power shape the great conflicts of the future? Here's where the timeline explodes outward. With Europe subdued, American empires turn their gaze elsewhere. Across Africa, kingdoms like Mali, Songhai, and Ethiopia now encounter American fleets seeking alliances, or conquest. Trade networks across the Sahara shift as gold and salt flow toward American-controlled Europe. Then comes Asia. The Silk Road is already declining by the 1400s, but maritime trade is booming. Imagine American ships clashing with Chinese junks in the Indian Ocean, or forming uneasy alliances with the Ottomans to dominate Mediterranean trade. The age of exploration doesn't vanish, it reverses. The Americas drive it, not Europe. Instead of European colonies in the Americas, we might see American colonies in Africa, India, or even East Asia. And what of Europe itself? Reduced to a dependent region, its languages and cultures survive, but in altered form. Spanish, French, and Italian become secondary tongues, blended with Nahuatl, Quechua, and Mayan. By the 1600s, the modern world looks nothing like ours. Power flows through the Americas, not Europe. But this raises the final haunting question. In such a world, what future would humanity build? Here's the long-term aftermath. Europe never rises to global dominance. No British Empire, no Spanish conquest of the New World, no Industrial Revolution in England. Instead, industrialization, if it comes, emerges from the Americas. Science and technology advance under different values, different philosophies. Would democracy ever flourish? Or would American empires, with their rigid hierarchies and tribute systems, dominate politics for centuries? Would Christianity fade into obscurity, replaced by hybrid faiths where Quetzalcoatl shares space with Christ? And what about today? Would the internet, global trade, and modern nations look anything like what we know? Or would we live in a world where the gods of the Americas still rule from across the Atlantic? It's a thought experiment that flips history on its head. If this scenario made you think differently about the past and the strange twists of fate that shaped our present, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our next what-if journey into alternate history. Because the past is never as fixed as it seems. And sometimes, the wildest possibilities are the ones that make us question everything.